Hello, welcome to the 48th episode of the On The Line Tennis Podcast. It's me, Jack, and my co-host today is...
Gavin. Back again this week after a wee couple of podcasts layoff, but you've not managed to get rid of me forever. I am back, which I'm sure many people will be, happy or resentful about, depending on your personal preference. But good to be back to discuss, obviously, all the action from the finals weekend of Roland Garros.
Yeah, we're going to discuss the women's singles final between Swiatek and Coco Gauff, and the men's singles final between Rafael Nadal and Casper Ruud. We can just dive straight in, and I would like to start with the women's final, if that's okay, Gav. Swiatek v Gauff, a few stats for you. Coco Gauff, youngest Grand Slam finalist since Maria Sharapova at Wimbledon in 2004. Youngest at Roland Garros since Kim Clijsters in 2001. Obviously 18 years old. There's been a little bit of discussion about this throughout the tournament. I think I remember doing a tweet on Barbara Shett basically saying that Coco Gauff had made slow progress.
Yeah, you sort of laid into it a wee bit. It was quite a hot take.
I didn't want anybody to say anything controversial. I was literally just, exactly what Barbara Shett said. I put it on Twitter. I was like, that's a little bit unfair. I wasn't saying, Barbara Shett's talking for 12 hours a day during these tournaments. She might say stuff that doesn't make much sense. That she just said that off the cuff. I'm not saying it's any sort of slight on Barbara Shett's character. I'm just saying that
you said it was a wee bit harsh. I think it was very harsh, really, being honest.
Especially
if you look at the women's game at the moment and you see the amount of quality players that they are, you've got to bear in mind all the hype that she had around her at that Wimbledon, since that Wimbledon 2019, all the pressure that's surrounding her every time she plays these tournaments. I think you've got to cut her some slack, and she's still performing really well. If you actually look at the tennis that she's playing at a really high level. So I think it's very harsh for her just to sort of see it's taken us a long time. It's not taken her that long, really.
Yeah, I'm going to flesh that out a bit. So my idea for today is basically I'm going to take quotes from the press conferences of the two players after their final, and we'll sort of flesh out our thoughts on those quotes. And with that in mind, Gav, what you just said about pressure there, Coco Gauff said after the tournament, this year I feel like it was a mix of my mentality. I think beginning of the year I lost Australian Open, a couple of first rounds. I think I was just going into the matches trying so hard to win, not for myself, but for other people. I think this tournament was the first tournament this year that I went in trying to win for myself, and I think that was the difference in my mentality. She talked about it throughout the tournament, the fact that she's shifted her perspective basically from feeling like she has to live up to expectations to living up to her own expectations has made a huge difference, basically.
Yeah, I think that's been really what I was really impressed with, especially the Sloane Stephens match in particular, because I think she said before that match, people kept asking her, I think it was something along the lines of people were asking her about, you must have looked up to Serena, etc. And she said, actually, it was more Sloane Stephens that, it was sort of closer to her in age in comparison. That she sort of looked up to, and that's what would really impress me during that match in particular, how disciplined her rally tempo was, how balanced her game was, not being too aggressive too early, being willing to stick it out in the long rallies, and being able to tactically sort of outsmart Stevens as well. And I think she said after that match, she gave that on-court interview. I can't remember who did the on-court. It might have been Mats Wilander, but she was, very, very sort of mature in her outlook in terms of how she viewed herself and how she viewed her tennis. She was saying like tennis isn't the be-all and end-all, something along the lines of tennis isn't the be-all and end-all, but it's important, just how much you respect yourself. And I think that obviously that outlook has certainly helped her during this tournament, and it probably will help her going forwards as well.
Yeah. I'm going to jump between players now because that is the perfect moment to also mention Iga's quote, because she has exactly the same outlook, I think, just with a little bit more experience using that outlook on court basically than Coco Gauff, because this is literally the first tournament where she feels like all the pressure's sort of off. Obviously there was a ton of pressure on Swiatek, and she basically said that was the hardest thing to deal with. But at the same time, on learning from Rafa, she mentioned, I feel like all these great champions, they kind of accept that they may lose. I remember even last year when Rafa lost in the semi-finals, I met him the next day in breakfast at the hotel, and I said to him I was crying basically the whole evening because he lost. he was sitting and he was like, "Oh, it's just a tennis match, you win, you lose, it's normal, that's something, it's pretty easy. Not everybody can do that, just treat those big moments like another match, it's something pretty special." She basically is saying that, Rafa, I wouldn't, well, I could maybe try an impression of him. You
I
win
don't
some, you lose some.
really want to hear
You,
that.
you win some, you lose some, it's just a tennis match, no? Something like that. He was like, yeah, I mean, that's what I want to bring onto the court. It's just like, it doesn't matter if I win or lose. And that's her. Well, she's used Rafa as an inspiration. That's basically what Gauff is also doing now. And
Mhm.
it's a massive for Gauff. It's made a huge difference. For Swiatek, that's her coping mechanism basically for all this pressure that's been thrust upon her as the world number one going into these tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, she dealt with the pressure unbelievably well, especially in the lead up to Roland Garros. Everyone was literally saying, "Oh, we may as well just give her the trophy now," and stuff like that. Coming out with even pundits are coming out with that statement. That's the sort
Oh
of thing you
yeah.
sort of expect to see in Twitter, in amongst the sort of tennis Twitter fan base or whatever. But when you've got pundits saying that, you've got ex pros saying that as well. It must be very difficult to sort of go into a tournament, sort of being able to walk out on the court without putting that at the forefront of your mind. On the Rafa thing's quite interesting, of course, because Rafa's saying it's just a tennis match. Yet you see the amount of effort he puts in, even with his foot and all that, to try and play and all that. I think it does mean a lot to Rafa, to win these matches. Obviously, it's gutting when he loses, but yeah, if that's helped her out, fair play, fair enough.
One thing I would say about Rafa, though, Gav, just while you've mentioned that, I might get onto it when I'm doing his press conference, but he did mention that and it's one of the best quotes he's got. I wish I had it to hand, but he said something along the lines of he prefers the fight to the result, and I 100% believe that. I definitely believe that. I think
Oh,
he
100%, yeah. But I guess it's difficult because I think it's very easy to say it's just a tennis match, but would he be putting all that effort in to play with his foot the way his foot is without generally caring about the result? I think it was a balance, isn't it? I mean, I think he probably is at a stage of his career now where you can almost not accept defeats, but I think he knows defeat can happen if he plays a player that plays unbelievably well, like Novak did in the semis last year. But I think it's sort of like equally he does have that desire to keep winning, because if he didn't have that desire to keep winning, he wouldn't be putting himself through, well, certainly with his foot situation, it sounds like he's putting himself through literal hell to try and get ready to compete in these events.
Yeah, totally. But I don't think that is. I think I genuinely believe. I don't think he feels impacted too badly by it when he does lose. I think he feels like if he gave 100% effort to give himself a chance at victory, then he can walk away content, because that seems to be his outlook on life, and
Mhm.
that's something that Swiatek is learning from him. Basically, it's not the end of the world if he loses, or if he wins. It's not at the same time the peaks aren't as high, because Rafa said there's the adrenaline on court, but really afterwards, it's just so long as he fought 100%, he can walk away from the match content.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's an incredibly good lesson to learn. Obviously, it's helped Swiatek a lot. A little bit more on golf and what you were saying there about the Stevens match, because it's a perfect example, basically. And this is what she mentioned in the press conference, I think, about her shots, specifically about her tactics, I guess. She said, "I feel like I learned a lot of confidence on both sides. I mean, I know my backhand is something that everyone talks about, but really, I think what got me to the final was my forehand." And I think that's true. I think the rally
Mhm.
temperament on her forehand has improved tenfold, definitely. And as you say, yeah, she hung in there in the longer rally. She was able to sort of play amazing defense, amazing movement, eventually to give herself the chance at pulling the trigger on the forehand. In this match, obviously, Goff said Iga didn't really give me anything. Every time I thought I hit a good ball, it wasn't. There's a reason why she's on a winning streak. I'm just glad that I really tried my best. Yeah, okay, she tried her best. She did, to be fair. But yeah, any ball that she was hitting that she felt like was a good one, it was nowhere near. She couldn't build the point. Basically, the long rally sort of point construction that she was using throughout the tournament had zero effect against Swiatek, and
Mhm.
the forehand did eventually unravel. It's still a weakness against the very best in the world, but it's improved a lot.
Yeah, and I guess when it obviously what you've been doing throughout the tournament that's been so successful in getting you to the final isn't working, and you're trying to maybe think, oh, do I hit the ball harder? Do I hit it? Do I hit it at a different angle? That's obviously going to affect the shot, isn't it? Because obviously you're going to try and change it up, but in trying to change it up, you may lose some of what made it so good in getting to the final. So it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, you always notice that even as a club player when you play like the very best players, like if we're playing, I don't know, like Premier Division player, and you think, oh, I'm hitting my forehand well 90% of the time that I'm playing, and then you play these guys, and it's a totally different standard. You think, God, I need to change it up. And sooner rather than later, you realise, oh crap, my forehand isn't working. What's happened? What do I do? You're sort of like you're sort of in two minds. And maybe it's sort of the same for her in that final. But she did try her best. I certainly didn't expect her to win that final, but she didn't show any signs of giving up despite what the scoreline was, and there's a lot of good things for her to take away. I feel from losing that match, a lot of things that will help her in good stead when she plays big matches in the future.
Definitely, I think one of the things she said about it, she said, now that I've seen that level, the level of number one, basically talking about Swiatek and Ash Barty when she's referring to this, I know what I have to do. Hopefully next time, I'm sure I'm going to play her in another final, and hopefully it's a different result. She basically is learning. Yeah, I think I've got a quote here actually. She said specifically, I feel like throughout my career and even in juniors, the reason I had success so early is that I was able to see that level and then go back and practice to try and reach that level. That's an amazing outlook. Here's another one as well on what she felt like Iga did very well. She said, I think from playing other players, you're not used to seeing so many winners down the line off of certain shots, so you're not prepared to even run in that direction. I think she changes direction incredibly well.
Hmm.
I think she does a good job of that and taking the ball early. You've got no time, and on clay, it's something difficult to do. Even the heavy balls that I tried to throw in there, she was taking them early and hitting winners off of them. Anybody who's trying to take the ball early on a clay court, it's insanely difficult because it can bounce in whatever direction. I guess the clay of Roland Garros is a little bit superior to our sort of Bishop Briggs.
Oh yeah, I love the name drop there because I was so tempted to do it. Yeah, I mean, well, obviously we had a sort of horror show match a few weeks ago. Obviously, it's different to West of Scotland League clay at Roland Garros, but
this is a Blaze. I think that's the look up Blaze if you've not seen it.
But we're defining it as 70s Blaze, so it's like untechnologically advanced Blaze, if you will. It's uneven, horrific stuff, really, just nightmare. But yeah, I think obviously the court surface at Roland Garros is far better than that. But yeah, regardless of what surface it is, it's difficult to take the ball early, isn't it? And obviously Swiatek does such a good job of doing that. It's such an unbelievable skill of hers that she's able to execute consistently. And obviously, when you're able to do that, it just puts you under so much pressure if you're playing that opponent because, like, obviously you don't have as much time. You feel you've been rushed yourself, and you never get into that comfort zone, do you?
Yeah, I think the key in Swiatek's shot is how much spin she puts in the ball allows you to control. Like even if you sort of catch the ball a little bit funny off an early shot,
high margin for error.
Exactly. Yeah, you impart so much control on the ball. It gives you a much better chance of putting the ball back in the court, taking it early. And I mean, Swiatek is by far the best player in the world at doing it, obviously. And yeah, it made Gauff look standard when she was playing Grand Slam finalist stuff, obviously, up to that tournament, so up to that match, sorry. So yeah, it's so impressive. I think that's the thing to look out for, definitely. Like there's shots that just go flying down the line that you don't expect to against any other player. So impressive. Yeah, a little bit of a sort of sidebar here, Gav. I don't know if you saw this, but so we'll see. It's not really tennis related, but this is the point. This is why I'm mentioning it.
I'm bracing myself here.
There was a question in the press conference afterwards.
It was a Ben Rothenberg men's doubles final sort of question from the Australian Open. Do you remember that when he was asking Kokkinakis and Kyrgios an inappropriate question?
Oh yeah, it was worse than that.
It was worse
in fairness to Ben Rothenberg,
But I mean, Ben's question was pretty bad, which sort of lets you know how bad this question was. But it's the sort of thing that really, I guess, makes me really annoyed watching these press conferences. You see, the people that ask these questions are in such a privileged position.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah.
There's not so, loads of people would dream to have the access that they have or to have the job that they do for a career, for a living. And when you read such nonsense, and pardon my French, crap, like these questions are, you really do question how these people are getting access to this role, and B, why are they continually be allowed to be in the press room when it's so obvious that they're going to come out with inappropriate stuff like this? It's just nonsense. It needs to stop, really. It doesn't need to stop.
The question basically was along the lines of, why do you wear makeup? Or do you wear makeup to go to parties like outside of tennis, basically? It wasn't any more than that. It was just like, do you like to dress up for parties? Do you like to wear makeup? This girl's just won the French Open final. Sorry, woman even, 21 years old now. She's just won the French Open final, and she's being asked if she wears makeup. It's just like when Rafa wins his 14th French Open title, do you ask him if he likes to wear hair extensions, like to go to to go to the beach? It's like, what is the relevance? It's atrocious. It's absolutely atrocious. Yeah,
I just don't know. I sort of don't like watching press conferences anyway because I just think some of the questions are very repetitive and sort of non-questions. Really, it's almost like just like on autopilot a lot of the time. But
yeah,
when you see something like that, it's sort of like, come on, really? Are we really allowing this sort of nonsense to carry on?
I
And
know.
a professional, it is a profession. People don't forget these journalists aren't doing it for fun. They are being paid to get this access. They've got such a great living and such a great job, and yet they're sort of wasting their opportunity with such nonsense like
I
this.
know, yeah. In fairness, the rest of the conference was pretty good, but that question in particular was atrocious. So,
Mhm.
like one other question just before we move on was she was sort of asked, or she was told basically that a pundit had called her game flawless, basically, and asked to comment on it. She
Mm.
said, "There's always something to improve. Honestly, I'm still not a complete player, you know. Yeah, there are many things I'm not going to tell you because it may sound like I'm concerned about some stuff. There are still holes in our game, definitely. I
Mhm.
think if I was going to comment on one aspect specifically, it would have to be the serve, which is definitely still
Mhm.
there's gaps there, and I think when she goes onto grass, she's going to get a little bit of a shock, definitely. Which,
A wake up call, maybe
well,
a wee bit.
I did say she could win Wimbledon purely on confidence alone, but at the same time, like if she's not winning 3 points off her serve, which definitely
Mm.
could happen, and against some players who are winning 3 points off their serve, it might make a big difference.
Mhm.
I keep thinking about that Ons Jabeur match last year, and I don't know. I'd be a bit scared for her if Jabeur can play anything like that again. Like I don't. As I say, Swiatek, obviously playing out of her skin, but there's been tight sets even on clay, and
Well, there have been, yeah, for sure. But it's just that she's able to pull through, and that's obviously a confidence thing and the skill thing. But it's totally different than other surfaces, you know. But it will be interesting to see how she copes in grass and how she makes adjustments to a game for the grass court season as well.
it would be incredibly interesting. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
quite excited to see what happens. Right, anything else on that final before we move on to the men's?
I don't think so. I think we covered it pretty comprehensively.
Okay, let's move on to the men's. So Casper Ruud plays Rafael Nadal. Rafael Nadal wins his 14th Roland Garros final, 14-0 in French
Not
Open
too bad, is it?
finals at the age of 36 years old with a gammy foot. It's
With a foot that literally you couldn't feel anything in his foot. Yeah, I mean,
we're going to talk about that quite a bit, actually. I have quite a lot to say on that. But yeah, just quickly, as he had his foot numb to the point where he couldn't feel it. It wasn't exactly impeding him. His movement was exactly the same as it always is.
mhm.
Yeah, I wouldn't read too much into that. But yeah, okay, Casper Ruud. First time past the fourth round of a major in his career in making the
Yes.
final. Obviously, the only other one was the Australian Open last year. Incredible achievement. I certainly think he felt like that. However, after the match, he did say, I said before the match, I guess it is, but now I think I know it is. I'm just another one of the victims that he's destroyed on this court in the final. It certainly
Yeah,
felt like Master v Apprentice, didn't it?
I was sort of worried going into the final, and people might say, "Oh, this maybe been a wee bit harsh," but you see how much he idolised Rafa, and the Rafa Nadal Academy's social media page before the final was literally 11 between Ruud and Nadal. So many pictures of them at the academy, and or even they were saying like on academy graduate or academy guest versus Rafa and all that. So I guess going into the final, I didn't have much hope for him. Not because he's not because he's not a great clay court player. Obviously, he is. But I think when you've got that sort of narrative before the match, and I always reference this sort of Rublev Djokovic match in the World Tour Finals, when Rublev said, I've really not got a chance." I saw maybe not as negative as that, but I did sort of think going into this match, the occasion is going to be very big for him. A, how is he going to handle it? But B, crucially, does he have the belief that he
Mm-hmm.
can go onto this court and win this match? Because push come to shove, you can idolise Rafa as much as you want, but when you walk on that court for the final, he is going to try and destroy you. He's going to try and beat you up to win the title. And it doesn't matter how much respect you've got from him, you can't let that get in the way of the match. And I did sort of think for Rue, maybe it sort of did in a way.
Yeah, yeah. At the same time, there was. I'll talk about the tactics a bit, but also there was some looks during the match to
There
his
was, there
camp
was.
where Ruth just looked like you know, what the hell do I do here?
Mhm.
I've got no solution to this. I think, yeah, a little bit of a fleshing out of that as well. Ruud said it was tough for me to really know where I should play the ball because from both sides he has. Many people have said that he kind of has two forehands because his
Mhm.
backhand is also strong, even though it's maybe a little bit weaker. Kind of feels like you're playing a right-handed forehand. I didn't exactly know where to play there in the end, and he made me run around the court too much.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, definitely correct. Yeah,
I guess the big worry going to the match as well was the Ruud backhand. Like, I think if you watch that match against Djokovic in Rome, especially at the start of the match, Djokovic really exploited that, and I sort of thought it was going to be sort of Rafa times two, almost like on that and that sort of exploitation because he's got that big high looping topspin forehand that's going to go very high to the Ruud backhand. How is he going to cope with that? And I honestly thought, yeah, this is not going to. It doesn't bode really that well for Root. And to be fair, Root had his moments in the match, but I think especially going into that final set, when you watch that final set, it was an absolute bit of a beatdown, wasn't it? Let's be honest.
hmm
And that wasn't even the best I've seen Rafa play in a Roland Garros final.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah, I've got a sort of full analysis of it on exactly why that just didn't work at all for Ruud, but a little bit of what I said there basically. He doesn't play the backhand early. He plays it pretty late. He lets it dip. If you can't take that backhand early and send it down the line, I mean, the guy just looked completely helpless at times because
Yeah.
as soon as Rafa found that backhand in the ad court, obviously Ruud was constantly looking to play his forehand from the ad court.
Yeah, running round his backhand, yeah.
But a lot of the time, it was just a matter of time because if Ruud tries to run around the forehand and he doesn't get it right, I mean, the court's incredibly open,
Yep.
and that's what Rafa said. The key to the match was he said the key to the match was his backhand cross. So if Ruud played the forehand inside in, the court was open enough that Nadal could take on his backhand and sort of send it into that open space. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, I think, watching tennis casually, is that Rafa's backhand isn't a weakness
No, it's a
necessarily.
strength. It's a
Yeah,
strength.
it's a strength, exactly. He's got two incredibly solid wings. The
Yeah.
backhand is leagues better than Ruud's, and I'm sure
Yeah.
Ruud's will get better, but it's a weapon that you can use on the court. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, it left Ruud completely open to being attacked.
It
Like
did. It did. It did. But what I would
whenever
say,
I was going to say sorry, whenever a longer rally ensued, basically.
yeah, but what I would say about Casper Ruud was I know there was sort of a lot of not negativity after his first round performance, but I think a lot of people were almost being a wee bit too harsh on him, saying, "Oh, look, he was struggling against Songa." That was a very difficult match to play, and I actually said to people, once he gets through that match, the confidence he'll have, A, from coping with that situation, and B, from getting a win in that circumstances, will help him throughout the tournament. And he was 2-1 down against Sonego. He comes through that. He beat Hurkacz, a very good win against Hurkacz. He dealt with Holger Rune when there was some pressure in that match as well. Obviously, he beat Big Marin from being a set down as well. He did come through adversity, and he did show that he's got the fight to succeed at best of five level, which a lot of people were sort of questioning his best of five, form and capability. But I think he proved a lot of doubters wrong this fortnight.
Yeah, I think the Songa match was kind of like the Damien said it once in this podcast, but it's like the Spider-Man meme where they're both pointing at each other.
Mhm.
And I mean, Songa's game is very, very similar to Casper Ruud's. He's got a bit of a bigger serve. But I mean, other than that, they were both like, we said that at the time, didn't we? They were both running like into the stands to get their forehand into play,
Yep.
basically. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a very, very tough matchup for him, and he was quite lucky that Songa waned at the end of the match. To be honest, he's done brilliantly this tournament.
He
There's
has.
absolutely no doubt about it.
And he won Geneva beforehand as well, so he obviously had the energy to sort of
He
play the
did,
week beforehand, win, get to the
yeah,
final.
yeah. Oh, one amazing stat from Vanch we had on the podcast last week actually. This is Ruud and Berrettini because they both share a very crucial weakness, obviously, in their
Mhm.
backhands. Overall, 7-17, I believe, for Ruud. I don't know if I've got this the right way around, against top 10, and 0-7 in majors for Berrettini. 5-17 against top 10 and 0-5 in majors.
Yep.
Both with extremely exploitable backhand weaknesses that can be exposed by better
Yep.
players. Also, both beat Hurkacz in 4 sets to reach their maiden finals.
Well,
What does that say? Does that say something about Hurkacz, or does it say something about the top 10? I don't know.
it is interesting. I sort of think of it like the Thomas Berdych comparison, where like they're very, 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 very good players, like they're world class players, but they do have a weakness that can be exploited so far. So I do think they're very similar to Berdych in a way. Very similar.
Yeah, they are. They are very similar to Berdych. You're right, actually. Similar to Cilic.
Oh no, but Big Man's got a major.
Yeah, that's true. And he's got a backhand.
Can't
Kind
wait
of.
to give back my thoughts on that because I just found the whole thing hilarious. Really,
We
it's
will get
great.
onto that, yeah.
Great thought.
I want to talk a bit more about Rafa first.
Mm-hmm.
One thing first that Ruud said, well, it ties into Rafa, but is there a particular moment that you think will stand out the most? He was asked.
Mm-hmm.
He said the part when the announcer does the intro and he tells all the time that he has won, it never stops. It seems like it takes like half a minute to say all the years. That's the
Mm-hmm.
moment that stuck out to him. I like that. I think that just shows how big a fan he is. He loves it. Like when he's saying the 13 titles in a row. Gav, can you say all the years in a row?
In a row, yeah, I'll give it a go. 05, 06, 07, 08, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22.
Yeah, nice. Well done.
Boom. I
Nice.
remember Big Stan Wawrinka's win in 2015 there. Yeah.
Yeah, well done, Gav. Yeah, you should take the French announcer's job. I think just got to learn French,
Well, that's
obviously.
the main essential criteria. Other than that, I'm covered.
Yeah. Rafa. So
Yes.
on the foot, he said, I was able to play these 2 weeks with injections on the nerve to numb. He said sleep. I'll say sleep because it's funny. With injections on the nerves to sleep the foot. My doctor was able to put an anaesthetic injection in there on the nerve, which takes the feeling from my foot. Of course, I wanted to keep trying, and that was the only way to give myself a chance here. It's obvious that I can't keep competing with the foot asleep. Basically, referring to the bigger risk he would have on court of going over
Mhm.
the ankle. Ironic, considering
What happened? Yep. Yeah.
yeah, in his semi final. But
His doctor deserves a raise for sure. I mean, his doctor's done work wonders over that 2 weeks to keep him sort of physically in check and all that. So credit, shout out to him, whatever his name is. I know they don't really give the public
yeah,
named in the domain, but I mean, brilliant,
yeah,
brilliant job physically. I mean, it's conditioning as well. I mean, to come through Ogiali, Seam, Djokovic, even the Zverev match for the best part of 2 sets was really physical as well. And to get through Ruud in the final, I mean, that's phenomenal how he was able to physically keep his condition and peak
yeah.
form.
Of course, first time. Well, it's the third time in history that any player has beaten 4 top 10 players in a row to win a slam.
Mm-hmm.
On the foot and looking for a permanent solution for it, he said he's going to be undertaking surgery next week to try and permanently burn the nerve, basically. If that works, I'm going to keep going. If that doesn't work, then that'll be a different story, he said. So he's not looking to use that injection permanently. That isn't a permanent solution. That was just I'll win the French Open on, multiple injections to the foot a day, apparently. He said it was even more than that, but he had at least a couple before every match.
Mm-hmm.
And is going to be getting surgery next week to try and
Mm-hmm.
get a permanent solution to it. It's quite interesting because I think people obviously think he's on his last legs. I suppose if this surgery goes wrong, then yeah, there's a chance he's out the door. But
Mm-hmm.
if he can keep going, I believe he'll keep going because he's playing well enough, obviously, isn't he?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you win Roland Garros with a gammy foot, I mean, the confidence must be sky high. Let's be honest,
Mm-hmm.
whatever surface you go on. But he's also got that aura around him as well, which obviously does help. Especially players going out. I always question how much belief do players have when they walk out on court against these players, regardless of the ability they have. Just mentally, how much belief do they have in the big moments that they can do it over best of 5 sets? Not
Yeah,
many players do they? I mean, that's
no,
the big thing.
yeah, I mean that's very true. On Wimbledon, because I've heard a few people, I've actually had people that I know say that he's not playing Wimbledon. And I've had to sort of say that's not actually true yet. But
Not
he
true
said
yet.
he said I'm going to be in Wimbledon if my body is ready. Wimbledon is not a tournament that I want to miss. I love Wimbledon. I have a lot of success there. Full credit and respect to the tournament. I can't give you a clear answer. I don't want to talk about how many injections I had. Basically saying he doesn't know for sure. It's basically it's on that surgery. If that surgery goes well, then he'll be there. If that surgery doesn't go well, he won't, and
But
he won't be using the injections to play Wimbledon.
let's be honest. I think if he's even 70% fit, I think he goes to Wimbledon because if you look at it, Zverev's obviously not going to be playing it now. There's no Medvedev. There's no Rublev. A lot of the newer players, like a lot of players like Tsitsipas and all that, people forget they've not got established grass court games. They're not fully comfortable in the surface. Even Dominic Thiem wasn't fully comfortable in grass. Okay, won a title against Federer in 2016 in Stuttgart, but other than that, you look at his Wimbledon record, it isn't anything to sort of write home about. Sinner's not played much in grass either. So you look at it from that perspective, he would be one of the favourites if he was playing the same level, high level, maybe in the warm up event. If he does play a warm up event before Wimbledon, but he'd fancy himself, I think, to have a real chance of winning the title. If you look at
Yeah,
the players around in the top 10,
yeah.
they've not got established grass court records. Berrettini and the big servers will obviously be a factor, but if he looks at that draw and he thinks actually, you consider there's no Russian players there, Zverev won't be there in all likelihood. Djokovic will be there, but I guess the narrative for Djokovic going into that Wimbledon, if he wants to catch up to the Nadal's major tally, he would really be wanting to win that one, wouldn't he? If Nadal gets three ahead, then all of a sudden you think there is quite a gap sort of forming. But there would be more pressure on Djokovic going into that tournament to win it because people would be expecting him maybe to be winning as defending champion.
Mm.
And I think there probably would be because
Yeah,
even when he
there might be. I don't think it'll make a difference.
I know, but it's an interesting narrative to have of him chasing Rafa. He would be wanting to win that slam. But I think Rafa, if he's 70% fit and he looks at the draw and he looks at the players that are playing, I think he'll go and give it a good go.
Yeah, Djokovic 100% is a massive, massive threat, and he should be the pretty big favourite for the title, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Alcaraz is still a question mark, but actually his game could be very effective on grass. It's just, yeah, if the service may be still an issue on grass, to be fair, but everything else is perfect. The speed of his shot and stuff, certainly. Auger-Aliassime, 100% could be a threat. I think Auger-Aliassime
Her
is
catch as
and
well.
Harkach, of course, yeah, and Harkach and Berrettini. Those
But
three players.
and Big Marin, of course. I still think I know I'm
But
not
oh,
saying it
genuinely,
biased.
yeah,
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 genuinely, I think he
yeah.
could win it if he gets a good draw and he plays his best tennis. I think he
Okay,
could
after playing the French like that, yeah, why not? Definitely,
exactly. Yeah.
definitely, yeah, yeah. So he's going to try and play it. Yeah, and obviously, as you say, he's probably got a pretty good chance compared to other years
Mhm.
of doing well at the tournament. Plus, he's obviously got the first two slams of the year, and I genuinely think that should be a motivation for him. However, he has said on motivation, it's not about being the best in history. It's not about the records. I like what I do. I like the competition. We've achieved our dreams, me, Roger, and Novak. It's not the competition to try to be the best, to try to win more Grand Slams than the
Mhm.
others. What drives me to keep going is the passion for the game.
Yeah, I do. It's a nice quote, but like if you ask Novak, Roger, and Rafa in private, how much does that getting the most majors mean to you? I think they'd all probably give a different answer. Let's be honest, they would all be motivated. I think they would
Maybe,
be. I think they would
maybe,
because
maybe.
I think they would be. They would.
I definitely think Rafa is the most believable of the three in terms of what motivates him because yeah, but as I say, like when he said that thing about fighting, he prefers that to winning. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. That checks. Whereas
Mhm.
Djokovic and Federer, they have historically been pretty better about winning matches in the past.
I,
So I
I think so, but I think for Rafa as well, often when he fights as hard as he ends up winning. So the two probably correlate quite well.
yeah, they
And
do, and he knows that. And
he knows that. He probably
winning is a bonus, definitely. But yeah, fighting comes first, 100%.
yeah, yeah.
On winning as many titles as he has. This is a
Mhm.
little bit of a sidebar. For sure, it's a surprise. If it doesn't surprise you, winning 14 Roland Garros or 22 Grand Slams, it's because you're super arrogant. Now, there was a quote from Holger Rune about a
Oh
year
no,
ago, about a year ago, where he said he could break Rafa Nadal's record at Roland Garros.
I think Holger needs. Well, I think he did get some humbling, to be fair. But I'm just a bit fed up hearing about Holger Rune in the past week. The amount of the amount of Twitter posts I've seen about what happened, what didn't happen. It's like a flipping reality TV show,
I
situation.
know.
What happened after that match? I think he's got some maturing to do, Holger. But I'm always willing to give players the benefit of the doubt when they're younger because
Uh,
nobody's the perfect maturity at that age, or whatever. I'm 23 and I still lose my temper on the court. I don't think I'll ever not lose my temper on the court at times. But everyone, you've got to give people some slack. I think but I've seen interviews of him. He seems all right. You just got, it's a high pressure situation. He's that young. People are millions of people watching him. A lot of pressure on him. People can make mistakes.
yeah,
You know.
my opinion on it, Gav, is there's enough respectable and very kind tennis players in the world for me
There
not to
are,
worry about whether or not to give slack to Holger Rune.
there are,
I don't like
but
him.
you know, there are. But I mean, I just It might sound better. I just think of the Tsitsipas Medvedev situation in Miami, for example, where the confrontation that goes on there, and would that happen now when the two meet? I don't think so. Would there be a situation at the net like that? I don't think so. So I think in a few years' time, he probably will look back and think, "What the hell was I doing?
Mm,
This situation." I don't think. I think he will mature. I'm just willing to give him some slack because nobody's perfect.
yeah, I feel like no smoke without fire. Yeah, we can agree to disagree. I certainly feel like he's shown a little bit too much of his what I believe are his true colours for me to feel like I'm confident he's going to mature anytime soon.
Okay,
We'll see though.
we'll
Could be
see.
proven wrong. Okay, yeah, well done, Rafa. Vamos, big pat in the back. You've done very well. Another, bloody
I think he's done more than very well. Yeah.
112 win at the French Open for you. Well done. Absolutely mad. A few closing notes very quickly.
Yes.
One thing that Amelie Mauresmo pointed out, wheelchair tennis was played for the very first time on Philip Chatrier.
Good to see. Very good to watch as well. I don't know how much of it you've watched in the past, but it is great to watch. It's remarkable what these athletes do. They should definitely be getting more attention.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I don't know why we don't see more matches, especially in finals weekend, why you can't have the wheelchair finals played on a main court of a stadium as well with the men's singles final or with the women's singles final or doubles final, whatever. Why can't we get finals in all centre courts? Why is that not possible? They could probably do it if the scheduling's better, but then again, as we've seen from this fortnight, the scheduling is not their strongest, shall we say, strongest strength in that
Yeah,
regard.
yeah.
So I think it's great to see it happen for the first time, but let's not kid ourselves that why has it not happened in the past? You know what I mean? It's been great to watch wheelchair tennis. Why can't it get more exposure? Why is it taking until 2022 for this to be happening on the main court at Grand Slam?
Yeah, half glass full there, Gav. I'm gonna take the optimistic route and say, at least they're doing it now. Definitely, progress 100%. Very, very well done by the French Open this year. Little story on that. I have actually seen a wheelchair tennis final in the past live.
Hmm.
We used to go to university with Gordon Reed's brother, David Reed,
Hmm.
and he gave us a few tickets to see.
Oh, I like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
just mentioning the connections there. I quite
I
like
know,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but this is the thing. We went down to Wimbledon to watch the final, and we were beside Gordon's friends and family,
Mm.
and not a player box because again, it's not on centre court at that point. It was
Mhm.
on one of the outside courts, but with his friends and family. And when he won, he was like, "Oh yeah, yeah." He came up to hug everybody, and then us four were just like, "Hi, Gordon." Well done. Yeah, yes.
Thanks for the tickets, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bit awkward being there, but yeah, it was amazing. I really, really enjoyed it, and yeah,
Mhm.
it was such a good match as well. He did really well to win it. I think it was 2016 when Andy won as well, so
Mhm.
we were there for the final too. It's brilliant.
Brilliant.
Yeah, peak viewership this year, 5 million people watching. Can you guess what match? Bar the final, so it was before the final.
Must be Djokovic Nadal, surely.
No,
No, really?
no, it
Must.
was Felix Nadal.
Ah, right. Okay. So, but I'm guessing that the viewership would maybe have peaked towards the late stages of the
Yeah,
match.
yeah.
I've never seen as much build up before a match as I have for that Nadal Djokovic. Did you see it in Eurosport coverage? You had like a timer, they had like a click countdown, like it was like 3 hours 59 minutes. It
Yeah,
was like a
fair
it was
dues.
what I
Fair.
quite liked about that match. Quite thought if you watched the coverage, I think John McEnroe invented a new drinking game. So it was take a shot every time McEnroe mentions that Djokovic has tried to work on the high forehand. You would be pissed within about half an hour of watching it. Honestly, the amount of times he mentioned it, it's quite funny. It was every single service game. It's like he's worked on that, he's worked on that, he's worked on that. I'm like, well, here's a pro tennis player, John. He might
Yeah.
just think about working on it.
uh
It was quite funny. Um,
it was a brilliant match. To be
it
fair,
was a
it was
fantastic match.
very,
But
very good.
again, not the best day to be working a 6 a.m. shift the next morning. I had to choose: do I sacrifice sleep or do I watch the match? And obviously, the match
Yeah, easy,
way more
easy
important.
decision.
Way more important. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think the scheduling for the night sessions has to be better. On scheduling, I think my favourite schedule of this year was the Saturday in Chatrier. You've got Casper Ruud, Tsitsipas, and Medvedev playing in the same day. Did they get a Chatrier time slot? No, it goes to Big Marin. It goes to Big
Of
Marin against Simon.
course.
And what I loved about that match was it was Simon's, it was built as sort of like a Simon retirement party from Roland
Oh yeah,
Garros.
yeah.
The top French players are there, it had shot in the crowd. You saw Pierre Gobert, I think Nicolas Mahut, all there to watch Simon. None of the crowd are really supporting Marin. Marin goes on to play one of his best matches of the year, hits 50+ winners and celebrates like mad in front of a crowd that wanted Simon to win. Very, very funny stuff. It was just brilliant to watch.
It's good stuff, man. He's a nice guy, but he's also ruthless.
He is ruthless.
Yeah.
That was great. In all seriousness, listen, I know we're big Marin fans, but if you actually, if you look at his run, just from a neutral perspective, it is really remarkable.
Oh,
And
it's insanely remarkable, yeah.
And people, I don't think he gets enough credit because everyone talks about outside the big four, we all talk about Del Potro. Look at the career he's had, or Wawrinka. Look at the career he's had. I don't think Marin gets the same sort of credit that the rest of those guys have had. Might just be my thoughts, but I think everyone says, "Oh, look, Del Potro's playing it," or "Look, Wawrinka in full flow, he plays great." People I think sort of don't give Marin sort of the credit he deserves in that regard. Just my thoughts, but I think.
Did Del Potro make off for semi-finals? Did he miss Australia?
He made the Australian quarterfinals. That's what he's made.
Yeah,
I checked up a few weeks ago. Yeah, he made the quarters of Australia, 2009 and 2012, but he didn't make a
yeah.
semi.
And then Stan made a quarter in Wimbledon, and
Yeah,
Team, I don't know, probably made like a second round at Wimbledon or something. But
yeah.
those are the other guys with three.
Stan made the quarters twice. Yeah. So again, maybe it's because the fact that Chilich's level can be up and down, and he can't go to sort of lean patches. But I think put respect in the Marin name. Phenomenal career, phenomenal
Mhm.
player, and
Yeah, he must have been so excited this
hopefully,
fortnight.
absolutely, hopefully Wimbledon
Yeah.
champion in a fortnight's time, whatever. But
We'll
there's a
see.
chance. There's a chance.
There is a chance. And the last piece of news, very, very quickly, Annette Kontaveit, the world number 2, has split with Dmitry Tursunov, the man essentially responsible for her insanely good run last year indoors, winning like 4 titles in the bounce or whatever it was like that. So yeah, it's quite a big split. At the same time, the world number 2 now has less than half the points that the world number 1 has. It's all Swiatek at the moment. Kontaveit is not doing particularly well. She hasn't won won a big tournament for a while, or she's never won a big tournament. Actually, she's never won a tournament bigger than a 500. The last noteworthy thing she did was to get to the final of the Doha Masters, I believe, and Swiatek beat her there. It's Swiatek versus the world at the moment. I think
Yeah.
nobody is surprised to hear me say that. So I understand why Kontaveit is making that change. Is essentially what I'm trying to say. Even though she's world
Yeah,
number 2 in the world.
it's always brave to change coaches, but equally, if the player needs to make that decision, and if she believes that that's going to be what's best for her, fair enough. As soon as somebody changes coaches now because of the Raducanu thing, everybody seems to be an expert into who should be coaching who. At the end of the day, it's not just about how good a coach the person is; it's about how well you gel with them as well. And I guess maybe she wants a new voice. Maybe she wants some new advice. Maybe she wants specific technical uh, adjustment to a game that maybe she feels another coach would be better suited to her. We just don't know what the sort of reasons for that decision are. But all you can say is fine. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how a new coach performs with her, and let's see if there's any adjustments to her game.
Yeah, I find it interesting that the world number 1, Swiatek, Daria Abramovich, her psychologist, had one bit of advice to give to coaches to improve their player, and that was develop a meaningful relationship with the
Yeah,
player.
yeah,
That is probably very, very, very underrated in terms of bringing success to players. It's actually having somebody they can depend on, basically.
yeah. Well, absolutely. I mean, if you're spending so much time with this person, it's not just a coach, is it? It's sort of like a friend, a mentor. You go through the highs and the lows together. It's about being able to connect with that person on and off the court, really. And
Yeah,
a lot of people that say, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be doing that." Well, you don't know what it's like for that relationship or that connection. It's very difficult to comment on
yeah,
coaching
exactly.
changes because we don't see the insides. You need to be there day in day out to see really how that relationship works. It's getting very deep and psychological this podcast now, but yeah, I mean, it just depends on how you gel, I guess.
It depends on the player as well. I mean, I highly doubt that Andy and Ivan Lendl have an incredibly deep and meaningful relationship, just a gut feeling. However, it works. Andy's a very, very naturally competitive person. I believe Swiatek has been open about how she likes to express her emotions on
From the
court
same cloth,
and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, so I think it makes sense that she would want somebody else to sort of share that with her. Thank you very much for joining us this far through. This has been On The Line's coverage of the French Open this year. If you'd like to catch any of my work, you can go to onthelinetennnis.uk. Any of Gav's work, please go to Last Word on Sports.
Yeah, please. I love the please being the big emphasis there. Like, hit me.
Why not? And give us
some interesting predictions for matches, and it's always a good place to go.
And you can give us a wee follow on Twitter as well. Gav, do you know your Twitter handle? Is it just Gavin Lang?
I'll get it up right now, actually.
Is it at Gavin Lang 98?
The suspense of whether you've got this right or not. I think this is another quiz question coming.
Do you know your own Twitter handle?
I'm getting it up there. It's at Gavin Lang 98. Yeah,
it is. There we go. Yeah,
you remember it, and I don't remember it. But
yeah, I can't remember my own. Oh no, I can. I think it's On The Line _Jack. If you'd like to give us both a follow, it'd be much appreciated. Thank you very much for listening this far through. This has been the On The Line Tennis Podcast. Cheers.